Like Derek in the Saints. That's great because Pete wants to get to the line, get me in a good play. I'm going to give you a bunch of different formations. It's just like with Gruden, right? Mm-hmm. And we're gonna be in the right play every time, right? So advantage Saints on every snap because of Pete and Derek are working together.
All right, what is up, everyone? I'm Noah.
I'm Austin.
And we are back with episode 62 of the Harvester Sports Podcast. Took a little break, but we're back at it again.
Had some work to do.
Like it? Nice. It's been a minute, though. Weather kept us apart. The grapevine closed down. Everything closed down. Snow for the first time in forever.
That's pretty cool.
It was insane.
Yeah, I love that.
Everything was against us. The podcast has got enemies, and some of them are just the weather. You know? And
that's right. Some of them aren't the weather.
Yeah. Some of them are just people. Some of them are blood related.
Talk about that.
There's blood related.
No problem.
Let's just start talking about what everyone wants to hear.
Who are we joined by?
Thanks, Austin.
How would you describe him? What's his title that goes before his name?
Probably Papa, Father,
Papa.
maybe.
I like that. I've never heard that ever. But I'll take
DCA, my dad, back on the podcast for episode 62.
That's right.
Welcome back.
Thanks, man.
Do you feel honored to be back?
I feel honored every time you guys take over my house and turn your podcast studio into my library.
Well, yeah, because most of the times when you do interviews and stuff, you don't have there's not guys on the network or on ESPN that are like, yeah, we'll make it easy on you. Pull up to your house.
Yeah, no, it's very rare. I think I've done that twice in my life, and I'm like, they're gonna come to my house. No, that's not gonna
he tried to dug us. He'd be like, I'm packing for Mexico, and I'm like, we'll just come real quick. I got it.
Real quick, please pan the room.
They're like,
we'll get out of here.
I'm going to
5
Mexico.
minutes.
I gotta go. Okay, check the living room real quick, and it's already all set up.
I love it.
There's an elephant in the room.
Yeah, there is an elephant in the room. Let's talk about what everyone wants to hear. Derek signed with the Saints.
Yes, he did.
Finally, he found his new home.
It's pretty good.
We kind of want to ask you, why was this the best fit for Derek?
Don't you almost feel like they had his heart the whole time?
Mm-hmm. I did, yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny when you get into free agency. I mean, he was in an interesting situation because it's very rare that you find a quarterback that is an all-pro player, Pro Bowl player that is just available for nothing. Essentially, because that's what the no trade clause did, basically, was made him a free agent, almost instantly. There was rumors that he was going to be traded. That wasn't going to happen. Let's be real. You're not going to go to a new team, especially being in the position that Derek's in. He wants to go to a fully loaded football team, or as close to loaded as you can, to try to achieve what everybody sets out their season to try to achieve and win the Super Bowl, right? So why would I give up picks to the team I just left if I don't have to? So the trade thing was really never going to happen. It didn't matter what they offered, right? Even though Derek will probably tell you that he would have been open to it, I probably wouldn't have let him be open to it.
Well, and I think one thing that people kind of misportray, or that is really weird to me, is that people look at it as to spite the Raiders, he's making it so they don't get anything in return.
No.
Well, where would that pick come from? The picks that are getting traded to the Raiders, that's his team. So
yeah,
it's not
exactly.
just taking away. It's not about hurting the Raiders. That's his
exactly
team
right.
that you'd be throwing stuff away from.
That was the thing we were talking with all the family members. It was we don't want a Russell Wilson scenario to happen where you go to this team and they
give up a lot for him.
They give, you're going to give up defensive players, you're going
to have holes, right? That's the whole point of if I'm going to keep playing, as Derek worked through, he obviously said a lot of times that he would only play for the Raiders, but he never envisioned this scenario that he found himself in at the end of the year.
Exactly.
Right.
So now you're okay, and he didn't do anything to. I don't want to give the Raiders picks. It was it wasn't about that. It's I'm going to go play for someone else. So I want to make sure that team's as loaded as possible.
Exactly.
It's not. It had nothing to do with the Raiders.
Those picks are going to be dudes that he's going to end up playing
exactly.
with.
So I think that was something that was probably just blown out of proportion. That wasn't really it was mostly about making sure this team, the Saints, had the most possible, because the Saints, as you can say the cap is fake, and I kind of believe that it is. The cap can be manipulated, kicked down the road, and I think every fan kind of knows that. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, you hear good teams talk about this. When I talk to general managers or head coaches about the salary cap, they say if you're a good team with a salary cap problem, that's what you want to be. You want to be in a situation where you can keep kicking the can down the road and you can make it what it is. Good players will renegotiate their contract. You'll find ways to make it work for everybody. And I think that's where the Saints are, So they're a good organization from top to bottom. Offensive line's fantastic. They have some really good pieces. Pete Carmichael is really interesting to me. He's a guy that's been calling plays not in the NFL for a long time. When Sean Payton stepped away, a couple years ago, and he had to call plays, and he was inserted. Drew had his best season. Drew Brees had his best season. So, and I think Drew talked highly of Pete. Obviously, Derek's connection with Dennis Allen. That was something that happened right away. That was the one trip. The Saints even went so far as to make an offer to the Raiders from a trade scenario, so they would allow Derek to make that trip. That's how valuable they felt Derek was. So from the jump, players were reaching out to Derek that are on the team, that are on the Saints now, and it never stopped throughout the whole process. When he would visit the Jets, when he would visit all these other teams, when he had meetings with other teams in Indy, it was nonstop from the Saints. They realized that these guys they're grown men, right? In the NFL, you have two scenarios. Like, so the Jets, for instance, Jets are a bunch of young, talented players that haven't really achieved anything yet, but they have the potential to be fantastic and be really good. They need some leadership, right? And they have that with Robert Saleh. But on the offensive side of the ball, you got to have a leader. You got to have someone to rally around, And when you look at it from the Saints standpoint, there's some young guys, but there are also a lot of veteran guys on the defensive side. There's a lot of veteran coaches there. There's a lot of guys that, are kind of grizzled veterans that understand how to make it work. And Derek has relationships with a lot of those guys too. So that go, far beyond just this offseason. This is like with, Tyrann Mathieu, like he's known him forever. A lot of these guys, Michael Thomas, like, hey, they go way back and they have history. And so when Derek became available, it was like, no, you're coming here. Like, I know the Jets and Sauce and Garrett made a push for him at the Pro Bowl, but that wasn't. There were a couple other teams that were kind of under the radar, like you guys know about, that we don't even have to mention. But there were some interesting scenarios that played out over the last couple weeks. But I think the Saints are going to be. It's a great scenario. You're in the NFC. The AFC is just going to beat the life out of each other. I mean, that's going to be an absolute disaster. If you're trying to get through that, God bless you, because it's going to be tough. That's going to be difficult. But the NFC has some good football teams. But I think that if you have the structure in place like the Saints do, put some pieces around a good quarterback, you got a chance to win a division, you get a home playoff game, you never know what can happen in that scenario. So it's good.
And that's what we always talked about. It was when it was like all the other teams we don't have to mention, all the weird scenarios we're hearing.
Yeah.
Like, and the Jets and Saints came up a lot. Saints were always like in the picture.
Yeah.
And like, that was kind of always what I was rooting for. I was like, dude, we've been in probably the hardest division in football, the 9 years that we watched. Do we really want to jump from like Pat, Herbert, Russell Wilson straight to Josh Allen
and in Miami and what you got in New England? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then like with the NFC South, I'm looking at their list. I don't want to like rag on any like the players over there. Like the other quarterbacks in the division, I'm like,
they're just inexperienced. There's no Derek has 140 something starts, and compared to maybe like 3 comparable starts, with the other 3 quarterbacks. And I'm sure they might try to add someone. Maybe the Falcons try to make a move for for Lamar. Who knows what's going to happen? They're going to draft a young kid. There's going to be some hype around that. But at the end of the day, there's no substitute for experience, that Derek has.
And I think also you talking about just the Saints kind of showing how confident they were that like we want Derek. You see a lot of the times in free agency, it seems like situations that don't necessarily work out well is when free agency drags along. This team doesn't know who their quarterback's going to be, doesn't know who their quarterback's going to be. Different guys are getting taken. This guy's getting taken, and then this player ends up here, and then it just doesn't work out. So it's awesome to see like really this is the first big move in free agency is just them being like, all right, we want him. We want to sign him as soon as we can. Go out there, get him with total confidence. He's going to be our guy rather than letting free agency just drag along, playing out all these different scenarios. Who's going to be our guy? And then the players already on that team, they lose confidence. They don't know what's going on.
I've seen that happen so many times, man, is, you get in the offseason and you have a clear need at a position and you're on, just pick a team. Okay. And you go 2-3 weeks into the offseason, it hasn't addressed it. You haven't addressed it. And you just assume that your team will address it. It's a glaring, obvious need. Like, you guys have to fill this position. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen it just not be filled.
Yeah.
And you just fill it with a rookie, or you fill it with an undrafted free agent, or you try and grab a free agent 6 weeks down the line in the middle of the summer, and you're like, this didn't solve a problem. Like, perfect scenario is the Raiders last year. I think everybody, even Raider fans, be like, need a right tackle, right? I remember talking to Dave Ziegler, right?
Yeah.
In OTAs, you got to get a right tackle, right? Never got a right tackle. Like, okay, we talked about some right tackles. Talked about a right tackle that happens to play for the Saints right now. He was one of the guys that I talked to them about, right?
Yeah,
we're going to try and get him. They didn't get him. He's in New Orleans. Where do you think Derek goes? Right? So, it's not hard to figure out. Like, veteran players understand that those needs, like you said, Noah, have to be filled. And if they're not filled, I got to find someone that's trying to fill these holes. Look at what the Saints did. Like, they had the conversation with Derek. Derek goes, his contract's going to be what it is, right? salary cap's tight. What did you see from the Saints? Restructure, nonstop the whole time, right? We got to make room for Derek. We got to make a move for this guy, right? And they're not done restructuring. They're going to keep doing that, with guys. So I think it starts at the top, right? For me, And I think it's a focus on what you have to get done. And if the front office is in tune with the GM and the head coach, and they're all trying to do their best to make it work, and they fill those holes, then you got a chance. That's all you ask for.
And I think that all trickles down to where when you have a clear-cut plan, it's like now the veterans on the team, the new players, Derek coming in, everybody knows like, hey, this is the deal.
The Saints are ready to go play right now, right? They feel like they have got what they need, right? Now they're going to restructure some guys. They'll draft some guys. They'll have some pieces. They got to find a running back. That's pretty clear. Like Alvin's going to be out for a little bit, so who's going to play that role? I mean, there's a lot of good ones in the draft. There's some free agents out there. And as we know, the running back position, it's a dime a dozen these days, which is crazy, right? A lot of these guys, Saquon's, now he's franchised. It's like Saquon Barkley franchised? Yeah. Josh Jacobs leading rusher in the NFL, 1 year, $10 million.
Derrick Henry might be
Derrick Henry going to trade him. Chubb, right? Chubb, thanks for playing. It's weird that I'm on with Lydia and Tomlinson on our show all the time, and I always have to like preface it because he's sitting right here. And they'll ask me about a running back, and I'm like, they're going to franchise the guy, or they're going to cut him, or they're going to get another guy that's 5 years younger that can carry the rock, man. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, man. There's such workhorses. I feel bad for them because they give so much, like, of their physical body, and like they just lay it out there. Especially the good ones, they just are undervalued, unfortunately.
Yeah. I also think putting myself in Derek's shoes. A lot of time when we're hearing the scenarios, right, from the teams, hearing the Saints being like, there is no other option for us at quarterback.
They didn't have one.
You're going to be our guy.
Yeah.
And other teams are like, well, Derek, we don't get you. We're going to get this dude. No, it was the Saints are like, no, you're our guy. I think, like, if I'm putting myself in Derek's shoes, I love that the team's being like, no, you're the one we want. You're not like the second option. You're like, we have alternatives. Like, it's you. Like, you're going to be our guy.
To both your points, to your point and Noah's, it's like the team knew exactly what they wanted to do, like from the jump. Like, we're going to target Derek and we're going to go after him. We're going to get him, right? And they did, right? And that means a lot as a veteran guy to be wanted. Like, you just came out of a situation where your team didn't want you anymore. What's the number one thing you want? Well, you want to be wanted, first of all, right? As a quarterback, I want someone that's going to say, no, you're our guy. Come lead our team. Because you have to empower your quarterback that way. And I think that teams make the mistake a lot of times. I see scenarios all the time without naming specifics where they don't do that and the quarterback is just kind of up and down. It's like, I don't know if you have my back. I don't know if you really are for me. Like, even Lamar. Like, even last year, I say this all the time, and people are like, oh, I don't know. Like, Lamar Jackson wasn't running the same way. He wasn't as aggressive. He was playing as a guy that was trying to contract negotiate in the off time, And he didn't put himself, even at the end of the year. Like, I don't know what his injury status was, but he wasn't putting himself out there, So I think teams are to blame for a lot of those situations.
Well, even look at 2 years ago, you had Tua wasn't even a captain on his own team.
Right.
They didn't make him a captain, and the year before that, Fitzpatrick was coming in sometimes Tua was in.
That's right.
You never know who was going to be
just rotate him.
No confidence.
Yeah.
Nobody was saying Tua's our guy. Nobody would commit to him.
Yeah.
This past year, you get a coach who says, this is our guy, we're putting him in, we're committing, and has the best year of his career.
What's even cooler, even better about that whole situation is even in this offseason, right? As Derek was in the free agent market, as other quarterbacks were mentioned, you still hear the rumors of, Brady's going to come back, go to Miami.
Philip Rivers is going to come back.
No, like Mike McDaniel, he's not wavered, like, from Tua.
Yeah.
Like, that is their guy. Like, he does not care. He's empowered his guy. He's given Tua the keys to the kingdom. And Tua played like that. He played with confidence. He ripped the ball. He ripped through his reads when he was healthy, when he was out there. He was one of the better quarterbacks in the league, from running that system. So they're going to only improve as he progresses.
Yeah. I also think, before we move on, I love the NFC South perfect scenario, but it's just like what Brady did. Brady saw, I'm towards the end of my career, what is the easiest division I can go to, get on a team that's ready, and go try to make another push. Which
it's a very similar scenario because obviously Tom's a smart guy and he's been around the league a long time. He knows what wins and he knows what scenario you need to be in. You got to win your division first. He learned that from Bill. You win your division. That's the easiest way to the Super Bowl, right? You get a home playoff game. Yeah. You control your own distance. You have a good enough record. You don't have to ever leave, right? Look at Pat Mahomes. He hasn't played a playoff game on the road yet. Yeah. It's crazy, right? Yeah. So I think that's what you look at. Like, how do I do that? How do I best achieve that? And Tom found it in Tampa Bay. And I think that there's a similar situation happening in New Orleans where you have a great defense. Obviously, you got some good young pieces on the offensive side. You got one of the best offensive lines, great play caller. Okay, so what do? We go there, fill our need at quarterback, play 14 indoor games. There's going to be 14 games played indoors.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like this temperature.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
No elements, nothing that you have to worry about. All right. Let's go cook. Right. And you got a good defense. So you try to win your division. And then the rest is just, it's once you get in the tournament, it's game on now. Let's go play.
What I always thought about is like there is a scenario where if you go to the AFC and you want to go to the playoffs, your playoff scenario could be you're playing Burrow and then Allen and then Mahomes.
Yeah.
3 back-to-back
for the next
weeks.
10 years.
And then you go to the NFC and you play. I love Danny Dimes, but Daniel Jones, blah, 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 and then you'll play like a Hurts or something at the end.
Well, just look at how Philly got to the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, people calling it like the easiest walk to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, and none of them are easy because I've done that in the NFC with the Giants, right? But it's challenging because you got good teams, and this might be one of the easier ones that we've seen, maybe in recent memory that I can remember. Really, you play a team with San Francisco, which essentially had no quarterback. They get to the end of a game and they can't throw it. Right, so there you go. There's a W. You play Danny Dimes. You get a bye, and then you're in the Super Bowl. It's like that's pretty good. So maybe let's join that conference and see if we can go compete against those guys. So it just makes sense.
You gotta admire going from like one of the best uniforms in the league to another one of the best uniforms in the league.
Best uniform in the league.
Silver and black to black and gold.
Yeah, you have to change a lot.
Great uniforms.
You don't have to change a lot, but the Saints uniforms are very nice.
They're very nice.
I love especially their retros when they wear them. The black.
They're pretty sick.
Yep.
They're pretty
Our Madden uniforms are the color rush ones.
That's
so
true. When we play Ultimate Team, we wear the Saints ones.
Yeah.
See, that's
Derek
good
said
stuff,
he liked
man.
them.
Derek said he liked them and knew all along. There was a.
See, you should have known. Could have tipped your hand.
There's a real scenario when Derek played Mutt Squads with us one night, right? He was playing, I think, against us. Our jerseys were the Jets.
No.
What was it?
Well, because, so basically we had the Saints jerseys. Robert Salas was the coach. I don't remember where our stadium was.
Yeah,
I think
but we do every scenario he would hit, we would throw all on the line to hope he wouldn't like take out his Madden aggression.
And then you try to pick out little things where I like these uniforms.
Yeah, he's like, I like these uniforms. Well, that coach is cool. I'm like, okay.
Nice.
We're just swamping our coaches and jerseys in and out.
I will say, man, Robert Salas is awesome. He's fantastic. He made it really hard. And I quote from Derek, this boy's making it really tough on me, right? Because he's a great guy. And he really has a vision for what they're going to do in New York. So I wish him well. But, yeah, Saints it is.
Yeah. And so now going the opposite way, the Raiders move on from Derek.
Yeah.
What if you were in Mark Davis's shoes, what is your plan now for the Raiders?
Okay, so
what's the next step after your quarterback for 9 years is now gone?
Yeah, so knowing what I know about Josh McDaniels, his offense, what the team is like from an intricate level, all right, what I would do if I was the Raiders, right, and I don't know why I'm giving the Raiders advice right now. They just cut my brother. But if I was the Raiders, I still love Tay. Okay, I love Hunter, love all these guys. Max, the freaking man, should have won Defensive Player of the Year. I said it. All right, so what I would do is I would draft a guy like Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, all right, a guy that can give you a little bit of something running the football, right? Because Josh has history doing that, right? He did it with Cam most recently. He drafted Tim Tebow, right? So he wants to play that style. And from an X's and O's standpoint, I understand why. Having called plays just at the high school level and played quarterback, that 11th guy being able to carry the ball for the offense is such a game changer. So if you can get in that, well, just look what Philly did, right? Look at what the Eagles were able to do with Jalen Hurts, right? All the way to the Super Bowl. So you take that young quarterback, okay, whoever it is, and then with your leading rusher in the league, Josh Jacobs, right? You're going to obviously run the football, but here's the problem: you have Devontae Adams who's going to draw a double team. So you play a numbers game, right? And all the numbers game is we're going to run the football with our quarterback and our back, and as soon as you play one-on-one, we're going to throw it to Tay. Like it's literally that simple. Right? And hopefully Waller gets healthy and he can get back to himself, right? And then maybe he's another piece that you can use. You obviously have some holes you have to fill. Aaron Rodgers was never going to happen. That wasn't happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Tom Brady retired. That wasn't happening, right? From a veteran quarterback standpoint, the Raiders have too many holes, right? Because you can't pay me $40 million, $50 million, whatever it is, and still fill the 7, 8, 9 holes that you have to fill, right?
Yeah.
So if you're Mark Davis and you got some money now, you're in Vegas, you got to spend it on the right spots, right? Let Dave do their thing, build their team, but you got to build it around a young quarterback. Unfortunately, at this point, which it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. You can add some pieces around him. And then I think when you play that style of football, you can play quarterback faster, right? And Josh's system, and I've said it before, it's like he doesn't need Derek's on-the-line ability.
Yeah.
He doesn't require it. He doesn't even ask for it. He doesn't want you to use it, right? He, in fact, would rather you not have that. He'd rather you just be able to run the football a little bit, throw it where he tells you to throw it, and then just go play football. So I think, it's going to be interesting what they eventually end up doing. Maybe they go after Jimmy Garoppolo. I've heard that's a likely scenario. I know Raider fans probably aren't too fired up about that, but Jimmy knows Josh's system, and he doesn't fit what I just mentioned. He's not Anthony Richardson. He's not even C.J. Stroud. He's not Will Levis. He's not any of these guys, right? He's a veteran quarterback that has been in a Super Bowl. That could get you where you might want to go, but I don't think that gives them an advantage unless they sign Jimmy for like $20 million a year. And then they can spend all that money on those other pieces, right? Yeah. Does that make sense? Because if you try to sign Jimmy to a deal that is more lucrative than that, which he probably can get somewhere else, it's going to be tough. I would go young, unfortunately, for some fans aren't going to like that. But it could be fun for a while, You got a lot of money. You got a young quarterback that's exciting. You have some turnovers. You're going to have some good plays and bad plays, but at least he'll get the ball when he gets one-on-ones because they're running the football at the quarterback.
So you think that type of quarterback, you would go more that route than, I know, like you talked about the Josh McDaniels system, a lot of people associate him with like Tom Brady, who is very much polar opposite of like
it is
Anthony Richardson or like those mobile quarterbacks, but you think that's the better route to go?
Yeah, honestly,
you just kind of take it from like when he was on his own, like Denver and stuff, right? Like what the changes he made.
Was so Brady ever that style? Was it ever his choice, or was it just kind of?
No, here's what's so weird about like the Josh McDaniels thing is so interesting to me because I really think what happened, and this is just my opinion. All right, I don't speak for anybody in my family. I don't speak for anybody from New England. All right, I know some people up there. I know some people that were in Las Vegas. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say what happened is in New England, Tom Brady ran the show. So he was able to bully Josh, and he would just say, this is what we're going to do. And if Josh said no, he would go to Bill's office. And if Bill said no, he'd go to Robert Kraft. Trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't need him in here causing a problem. Jimmy Garoppolo gets traded, right? Yeah. So I think that's what happened. I think that when they were in New England, Tom ran his stuff. Tom is a guy, historically, that gets to the line of scrimmage, picks the play he wants to run. Right? You give me a set formation, give me in and out of good play, bad play, then that's what I'm gonna do. Right? That's what Peyton Manning did. That's what Tom did. I think that what Josh wants to do is Josh feels like, and maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong, time will tell. He feels like he can guess right most of the time from the sideline, which is almost impossible to do in this day and age. But Derek does say he's a smart guy. Like he's a football genius. Like he gets it. Right? So I think for Josh, he's going to get a guy that he can not control, but tell where to throw the ball. That has some physical tools, that can make some plays in the run game, that can push the ball down the field. But all I need is a jugs machine. That's what he thinks, right? You give me a guy that can just shoot rockets and run it a little bit. I'll point the rocket launcher in the right direction. I don't need any cerebral things from you. I need you to just go cook. Right? I think that's really where Josh is. And I think, honestly, it's not that crazy either because in the NFL now, you look at some of the quarterback contracts, like unless you're going to get a guy and utilize that veteran, right? Like Derek in the Saints. That's great because Pete wants to get to the line, get me in a good play. I'm going to give you a bunch of different formations. It's just like with Gruden, right? And we're going to be in the right play every time, right? So advantage Saints on every snap because of Pete and Derek are working together, right? And I think that if you can get that, you pay for it, right? But if you can't get that or you don't want to get that, you can still play good offensive football. Yeah, you just got to play it a different way. You're going to be like, no, dude, we're just going to run this play, physically, just make it work, right? So and you can do that with a young guy. You can plug him in right away. So that's kind of how I see Josh working from now on.
Yeah, I think that's something that outside of even just. Usually when people talk about coaching styles, they're just looking at like the actual play calling itself. But I think that's a big component of it is how much am I doing? How much are you doing?
That's right.
You see lots of different styles, even like Shanahan, you talk about quarterbacks that don't get paid that much, like a Brock Purdy.
It's almost an identical scenario to Josh.
Yeah,
it's almost identical.
Throw Purdy in there, throw Jimmy in there, whoever it is, throw him in there, and
they have a certain skill set, right? They can rip through progressions. They're pretty accurate. Like you heard Purdy talking in his press conferences. He's like, I'm just trying to get it to my guy in space.
Exactly.
He understands his role, right? He doesn't even know what defense he's looking at. I guarantee you half the time. He doesn't care. Like Kyle doesn't require it.
And then you've got other guys like, think back to Rich Bisaccia, when just really let Derek take the reins on a lot of that.
And that's really what happened with Rich is Rich was just like, just get us in the best play. Okay. Derek goes in, has a game plan in mind. Like, he knows everything he wants to do, and they went on a run, right? So that's you utilize those veteran quarterbacks that have those abilities. And that's another thing. You got to have a guy that has that ability. I know a lot of veteran quarterbacks. Like, I'm not going to pick on Russ, but when you watch Russ play this year, the big problem with him is he's still reliant on that type of system. The one where it's like, just, we're going to tell you where to throw it, you go cook. Where he's a veteran guy now, and he's never really been asked to do the types of things that Derek or Brady or any of those guys do at the line, or even Aaron Rodgers does a lot of that at the line of scrimmage. Russ he's never had to do that, so he hasn't developed that ability. So that's where you see him struggle. It's like, I don't know what I'm looking at right now. And you see him misreads. It's like, who is this guy? So that's the challenge for Sean Payton now, is to like kind of, what do you do? How do you rewire this guy?
And that's something that, like, not to sound too cheesy about like finding your perfect match, but like, you really need a coach, because if you've got a coach that's going to let you have the reins, but you don't know what you're doing
exactly,
and you really need somebody to move your arm, tell you where to throw it, and then that's not going to work. And then the flip side is not going to work if you've got somebody that really wants to be able to make those reads and stuff. And
that's right. And it takes it takes a different type of personality too, from a coaching standpoint, to trust a guy. Because from a quarterback standpoint, you'd love that freedom, but then from a play caller standpoint, it's his livelihood. Like, this guy, if our offense looks bad, I put too much trust in this quarterback to make decisions for me. But in reality, it's almost like anything else. You gotta let it go, man.
Well, and you don't want to be disposable if you're really just kind of sitting there.
Yeah, watching, exactly. So I just basically break the film down for the quarterback. Yeah, you don't want to be that guy, but. I think the best coaches are the ones that can find that balance, And Sean's got a challenge in Denver. It's going to be interesting to see what he does, because, he has a system historically with Drew Brees, like what Carmichael runs in New Orleans. Like, they want to get to the line and get in the right play, diagnose the defense. Russ has never really been asked to do that, so he's got a challenge ahead of him for sure.
You've talked about what the Raiders are going to do at quarterback. Derek goes to the Saints. Now, the other big quarterback is still in question, is where's Aaron Rodgers going to go? And you're, like, just from your point of view, what do you think is going to happen? You think he goes back to Green Bay? You think he retires?
No, I think that...
he goes back in the darkness for a couple more days?
Yeah, I think he's been in the dark for a long time. I think more than he thought he was going to be in the dark, right? He's been there for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Hey, we were talking about earlier, I was in the dark for a while, my own darkness retreat, but that wasn't by choice, that was the weather.
I think... I've said it forever. Aaron's going to retire. He's going to play for another team. So I don't think he goes back to Green Bay. I think he renegotiates his contract, because he can't play for $50 million anywhere. And maybe he doesn't want to. That's going to be the big deciding factor, is like, does he want to renegotiate? And then I think that the Jets make the most sense, because his old coordinator's there, Nathaniel's there. When I talked to Derek about the Jets scenario, he loved everything about it. He has never really run Nathaniel's system, so there was going to be a learning curve there. Now Todd Downing's there, and they were going to try and bridge that gap. But that was a decision that Derek was working through and like trying to figure out himself how that was going to work. And that's no secret. Nathaniel Hackett has worked with Aaron in the past. They got him to try to sway Aaron, So I think that he ends up with the Jets.
The last time a team got him to try to sway Aaron, you didn't end up on the Broncos.
That's right. That's right. So we'll see what happens. That's so good. It's like, okay, your quarterback didn't come, so we don't need you anymore. I felt bad for Nathaniel, though, because like you watch him.
That's a tough spot to be in,
dude. It's so tough. It's like, I think I can get him to come. I think I can get him. Oh, he's not here.
I hope he wasn't talking a big game like that.
I hope not.
I promise you, I'll get him.
No, Aaron's going to come to Denver. No, it's going to happen.
You're going to say me and him are like this.
And then the owners are all, we got Russ.
I think we're gonna move on.
It was bummed me out, because Nathaniel was like so happy, like in training camp, and like he was all bubbly, and then like you watch, like he grew a goatee like halfway through the year, and I'm like, he's going to the darkness, man. Hold on, bro, don't let go. And then like by the end of the year, his last press conference, he was like, this is just stupid. I was like, man, they killed his soul. Hopefully he gets it back. We'll see.
And then one more quarterback that's in the news right now. I think we talked about it a little bit, but Lamar, again, the non-exclusive franchise tag. Do you have any idea where you think he might go?
I think Lamar goes back to Baltimore. I've said this before, probably on this show, but I think that the fact that he's his own agent is just really difficult, especially in the scenario that he finds himself in. And I know he was asking for like Deshaun Watson type guaranteed money. It's same division. He feels like he doesn't have the off-field stuff. And Lamar's absolutely right. He doesn't come with the baggage. He's done everything that the Ravens have ever asked him to do. He's an incredible player. He's the best athlete on the field every time he jogs out there. I'd like to see him play with some freedom. I think what happens, the most likely scenario, is a team's going to offer him. The Ravens will match, right? To kind of say, this is the market, Lamar. This I think that's why they did that tag.
Kind of show him the light.
Here, we're going to do a non-exclusive tag or whatever it is, right? Get an offer, right? We'll show you what the market is. Right, and then boom, we'll match it. You'll be back in Baltimore.
To try to show that we're not being like disrespectful.
Yeah, we're not being disrespectful. We don't want it, but we also want to give you $200 million guaranteed. You're a guy that runs around a lot. Like anything can happen, you know, like in that scenario. So it's like we don't want to disrespect you. We think that you're a valuable quarterback. He's going to make $40-50 million, whatever it is. It's somewhere in there, right? But I think that someone else needs to show him what the market is. So it's actually a pretty smart move by the Ravens.
Well, I think it's. Unfortunately for Lamar, he's so unique that the market for a top tier quarterback is not even necessarily the same as market for Lamar, because the Ravens have spent years building around Lamar.
That's right.
And so you can't, it goes both ways. You can't throw somebody else in that system and expect them to produce like Lamar, but you also can't throw Lamar into an offense that hasn't built around him, because there is no other offense like
That's what we were talking about earlier. It's like, this is so hard because the Ravens have spent these last 3-4 years building this offense around Lamar.
Yeah. And
now you see these teams coming like, it's like the Commanders aren't interested. Oh, this team's not interested. And everyone's like, why? It's because they have to rework everything.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Just have him drop back and like play normal quarterback?
Yeah, that doesn't
make him who he is.
No, that'd be killing like what he's great at. And that'd be taking away his like God-given ability.
And even all the personnel moves for Baltimore, like everything that they've done has been like we have a great quarterback that runs the football and he's dynamic. So let's get these tight ends. Let's get these certain components. Yeah. I like the new OC for the Baltimore Ravens. Like I like Greg. I was with Greg Roman for a long time. The new OC has been around the college game a little bit. He's a little bit more, I think, spread oriented, which I think that anytime you can spread the field with a guy like Lamar, you're going to create more running lanes, put more pressure on the defense. I think the passing game will improve. But I expect him to be back in Baltimore. He's a Raven, man. He's like Ray Lewis is a Raven. Lamar is a Raven. Like Lamar can't. I guess he could go to Atlanta or he could go somewhere like that. But like you said, it's like that whole system is not built, for Lamar Jackson like it is in Baltimore.
And even if he gets a better offer somewhere, at the end of the day, do you want to be in a system that was specifically built for you, or be somewhere where they're going to try to force you into something or not?
I think
because you've seen that in the past with like mobile quarterbacks. If you try to turn a mobile quarterback into something he's not,
it doesn't work.
It's just not going to work.
Well, we saw it with like Colin Kaepernick just most recently. I remember there was a time where they were talking about, okay, we want to make sure he can play longer. He's not banged up, like he doesn't get hit as much. And then they tried to morph him into this pocket guy. It's like, that's not who he is. Yeah. I remember him like putting pressure on the Packers defense in the playoffs, running for 200 yards. Like that's who that type of player is, They did it with Cam too. They tried to make Cam a pocket guy. He struggled. His MVP season was he's running power downhill. Like, so your lifespan is like, from an NFL perspective, is less. So what? You get 8 great years, 10 great years instead of 15. Who cares?
And then I also think like who would be like, who's in the worst scenario? Lamar leaving, trying to make a team fill that role, or the Ravens now trying just to find another quarterback.
The Ravens will tell you that they have, and they'll probably tell Lamar, this is what's so weird about that. They have a second Lamar, and he's a Pro Bowl quarterback, right? They're like, wait a second.
Well, but that shows you how specific their system is that their second string has to be a second Lamar.
Exactly.
You can
their whole team is geared towards Lamar being the guy.
Yeah, most backups in the league are going to be like typical pocket guys, but they can't.
Or they're very similar to the guy that's the starter, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's only one Lamar Jackson, and he's so unique. I mean, you found Huntley; he does a pretty good job, but he's not Lamar Jackson, especially when Lamar's playing free and like paid.
The Watson contract, I mean, I think it just shook everything up because
the Browns screwed it up.
And how do you tell Lamar like, hey, look, we value you, but that being said, we don't know why they did that.
I think that's what you have to say.
You basically say, like, yeah, we wouldn't have done that contract if we were them.
Yeah, they just got forced into it. I think that Deshaun Watson thing was so weird, and there were teams, like, vying for his services and, like, all right, just send us your best bid. I think the Browns just panicked and sent here, just take $200 million.
Yeah.
It's like, what? What are you doing? For the whole, like, everyone I talk to in the league is like, they ruined contracts for quarterbacks forever. It's like, that's why it's so difficult to, like, sign guys and figure out what they're worth because Deshaun Watson's just looming out there.
If Lamar's pointing to that and saying he's getting paid that much, I'm worth this much, then it's like, you're right. If he is getting paid that much, then you are worth that much.
Why wouldn't he do that?
But we can't pay you that much.
We can't pay you that much because no one should pay anyone that much.
The Browns just had complete frustration. We're tired of this quarterback carousel. Here, take
they're
all the
so
money.
mad at the jersey hanging in the window that I've walked by 30 names on it. Yeah, they're like, no more.
That's what years of the QB carousel does to a franchise.
They're like, what off-field problems? We don't care.
Take it all.
Just take it.
Oh man.
So are we also going to see two Bakersfield quarterbacks starting in the NFL this year or no?
Oh, that's a good point. I think so, yeah. I think absolutely. Jordan's got to be the guy.
I don't think we still haven't seen enough from Jordan for them to want to draft someone else.
Well, last year I thought he played pretty good when he went in, you know? You talk about like Lamar and having like a quarterback behind him that looks the same. It's so funny as you watch like young quarterbacks. It doesn't happen as much anymore, but you have a veteran guy like Peyton, or you have like Brett Favre, or Aaron Rodgers. Like you got a veteran, and you bring a young guy in that's very moldable. They start to look like them and have the mannerisms of that quarterback in the pocket. And this last year, you watch Jordan. It's like he's doing a lot of things that Aaron does in the pocket, like mechanics wise. His release is a little bit different. We've watched Jordan throw out here at the barn when he was in high school. Like he didn't have that release, those mechanics. Like he looks pretty good. So. You got a young quarterback on a rookie deal still. Go get some players around him and try and win that division. I think it's very winnable, right?
For sure.
I think so.
I think it'll be very exciting to see. I've never had a time in the NFL like this before where I felt like quarterbacks just going like this and just spinning.
It's kind of crazy, right?
Where's Lamar going? Where's Derek going? All these big name guys all of a sudden just available out of nowhere.
It's not gonna get less crazy either, because last year with the wide receiver market and all the changes with Tyreek Hill and everybody just going everywhere, and they're like, I don't have to play for this. And players are starting to be empowered a little bit. They understand they have more pull than they thought they originally had. Quarterbacks are now doing the same thing, right? It's I just told Derek, I was like, when I got cut from the Texans, I didn't sign a $70 million guaranteed contract when I left, and I went to another team. It's like, you guys got to figure it out. The quarterbacks are they got some power, but it's going to be a lot of moving parts, and it's only just begun, man. Like it's going to be a crazy offseason. It's going to be fun.
It feels more like it's starting to feel more like the NBA now, where these dudes do have more power over where they're going.
Or you're like playing butt squads with you, and I'm like, I show up the next day, and I'm like, who's our quarterback?
Exactly.
Leon Sandcastle.
Yeah, it's like we've moved on from Pat Mahomes.
Perfect.
Mudsquads also makes you say weird stuff like that. Weve moved on from Pat. We're now putting in a fictional Leon Sandcastle at
jump shots left-handed.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking earlier. I was like, if all I had was Mutt, and you asked me who the greatest running back of all time is, I would say AJ Dillon.
It's AJ Dillon. It's the quadfather.
I was talking to Noah earlier. I was like, at one point in time, we have Ted Hendricks, who was a pass rusher his whole career. Yeah. In the middle third, we have Julius Peppers playing the flat.
That's right.
And we have Bo Jackson playing strong safety on the right.
That's right. It's so fun though.
It's the most best. Fun ever.
3-on-3 is so good.
Dude, you have to play normal head to head. Just
6-year boys. Yeah, 6-year boys and then 5-year boys.
Just three, just crush online dudes.
Yeah,
and run. That. We've turned Madden into NCAA the way we play.
We have. We are RPO masters. There's no answer for it. You can't play man. You can't roll guys up, because now we figured out how to adjust the RPO routes. So like even if you have like what we call a Yeti, it's basically if you have a trips formation, 3 guys one side, the inside guy runs a flat, the other 2 guys block for him. Well, if it's a different coverage, I'll just have Ty Swaggy run a slant or run a shallow or run whatever I want. It's so dirty. It's so fun.
Now talking about Leon at quarterback, Pat Mahomes at quarterback. It's been a controversial.
What is this transition going to be?
It's already transitioned.
It's going to be great.
It's been a controversial podcast already. That's what I talked about. I want to know, what are your top 5 quarterbacks of all time? Because I know that's been brought up before.
Here we go.
And I've had to look away
from Twitter.
Be ready
for the heat coming, boys. This is where it starts.
The thing is, the list is really good, except people have a problem with one name not being there.
They have a problem with, they don't even care who's on the list.
Yeah.
They only care about 2 things. All right. Here's the 2. So these 5 quarterbacks right here, Noah could put any 5 quarterbacks on my finger, right? He could put little dudes right here, right?
Well, that thumb has to be a specific person.
Yes, exactly. And it has to be Tom Brady, but for me, it's not Tom Brady, right? And Joe Montana is also not on the list. Now, Tom Brady's on the list. He's just not number 1, right? And Joe Montana's not on the list because I have good reasons for this. Steve Young ran the same system, right? Steve Young was a better quarterback, more efficient in that system. Now I know they're going to say, oh, Joe Montana told a story about John Candy in the stands. Joe Montana called his wife from the sideline phone. Like he wasn't phased. Like, okay, I get it. Right? I understand. The guy had exactly what you want for a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he did great, right? He did great. But if I'm going to say who the top 5 guys of all time, Like, Steve Young played in that system better. And to back me up, Steve Mariucci coached both of these guys, and not to put Steve under the bus, okay? But when I posed the question to Mooch, I said, who would you prefer? He said Steve Young, right? So it's not, I mean, I get it, right? Joe was great. But he was at a time where Bill Walsh was bringing a new system into the NFL no one had ever seen before. It's West Coast offense. You're throwing to the fullback out of the backfield. The tight end's running stick routes. Like, there's an element of timing. He's a genius, right?
Yeah.
He's a genius. And Montana was right there. Perfect timing. Took advantage of it. But what Steve did is he took that to the next level. They involved the boots. They involved the quarterback runs. Like, that's where that offense that you see with Kyle Shanahan, that you saw with Mike Shanahan, like that's where that offense went to the next level.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where you see it now. Like, what Kyle Shanahan is running with the boot action and the quarterback on the move, how John Elway won his 2 Super Bowls finally at the end of his career was off that same type of stuff that Mike was running. Like, that's all because Steve Young played quarterback for them. So that's a guy that has literally changed the NFL, right? Now, Montana was great, and he won Super Bowls for them, but Steve was a transcendent type of player in that offense. Yeah. So he's there, right? And then you got Peyton Manning. So you got Peyton Manning, right?
At number 1?
Peyton Manning's number 1. Okay. Peyton Manning's the best quarterback to ever play. You're going to say, oh, Tom Brady won more Super Bowls. I don't care. I don't care, all right? When I watch quarterbacks play, Peyton Manning knew what defense you were running, right? Now that he knew what defense you were running, he could turn his back to the defense, play action pass, and throw it to a spot 5 seconds before Marvin Harrison was there, before Reggie Wayne was there. Like, Reggie Wayne said he had, like, telepathic ability. Like, he could know things before. Look at the size of his head. You can understand why, right? Like, the guy was a space alien. Okay?
A lot of stuff up in there, a lot of thoughts.
Peyton is a genius, right? And he was good, right? So he lacked some physical ability towards the end of his career, but the guy threw 50 touchdowns when he was playing with the Broncos with a fused neck. Like, imagine the level of understanding that you have to have a fused neck and throw 50 touchdown passes in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't run a 7-flat 40. You can't move out of the pocket. If someone gets around you, you're going to just sit down and take a sack. Like, to be that smart and that efficient with what you do, dude, he's number 1 for me, right? And then you can just throw whoever you want in there now. All right, so you got Peyton Manning. I think Dan Marino's the best thrower of the football ever, right? For me, personally, okay? John Elway, right? Went to like 4 or 5 Super Bowls, won the last 2 that he was in, but he was great for 2 decades. He was in that same system that Steve Young was in, was absolutely amazing.
And then Brady makes sure 5.
And then Brady will make the 5. Yeah, and you can mix and match them however you want. You can
put one more. So are you putting like a young guy like Pat in there?
I think Pat belongs in the conversation. Like, because right now, Pat Mahomes, okay, if you look at the trajectory of his career, he's going to eventually be the best quarterback of all time. I think that there's no argument there. Because, first of all, he hasn't played a road playoff game. He's won, 2 Super Bowls, 2 MVPs, right? 2 or 3 MVPs. So you just multiply that over the next double of his career.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, who knows how many the guy's going to win, how many Super Bowl MVPs he's going to win. He reinvented himself this year. Or Tyreek Hill. He's only good because Tyreek Hill's out there. Tyreek Hill's not out there. Right? And all he did was throw for better numbers, won an MVP again. A lot of quarterbacks, they lose their top.
Ankle sprain.
Look at Aaron Rodgers lost Tay. What happened?
Nothing.
Right? Pat Mahomes lost Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce's still there. I get that. Travis is a great player, right?
Yeah.
Different player, right? But what happened? MVP. Who are we talking about? He's not even close. And maybe because I'd be texting Pat. I like Pat, right? Chiefs fans think I don't like the Chiefs. I don't like the Chiefs, right? I like your quarterback. I think you guys, well, we can talk about that later.
Well, also, people expect that that since they're the rival, that you're going to like think, oh, Pat's overrated, he sucks. No, you should appreciate him more because you've seen
I know how great he is.
I've seen what the man can
trust
do.
Me, I'll talk to Derek after the games they play the Chiefs. Like, I don't know what else we could have done. Like, you couldn't have done anything else. They were going to win the game. It didn't matter. So, yeah. So I think put him in the top 5, and there you go.
I think that's a solid list. I don't know how people can really hate
beef with that. Just because Montana's not in there. You know, everybody that we're talking to right now, I bet 90% of them never even saw Montana play. So what are you even talking about?
Hey, but his name's a lot bigger. It spread out a lot more.
Is Montana even in Mutt?
I don't even know. I don't even know. We played with Steve Young.
Steve Young's on our team right now. He's like the 3rd string quarterback.
His son
what does that mean now?
BCHS back in the day. I know that.
There you go.
Oh, he did. That's
Forgot
right.
about that.
Yeah, I remember that. That's right. I remember that. Oaks Christian.
That was good. So your top 5 list is Pat 5.
Hold on. Okay. Let's do it. So Peyton is number 1.
Yeah. Right. So your top 5 quarterbacks list, Peyton number 1.
I'll say Peyton's number 1. I'll say Brady's number 2. I'm gonna go Elway, Marino, Mahomes. Yeah, I'll go 5. He's got some work to do. They have longevity, right? They have longevity.
The Brady thing is tough for me because when people say, like, is Brady the GOAT? I think the greatest what? Because he undeniably.
It's a good question.
As far as
context.
If your job as a quarterback is to win games by far, and it's not even close, but it's hard to look at his game and say, like, he's not the best at really anything.
No, because if you say...
Like, there's not any individual part of his game where I'm like,
I have one game I have to win right now. My 5th quarterback, Pat Mahomes, is who I'm taking. Right? Because that guy is going to make any play I need, right? But to your point with Brady, like, he won. He won more than anybody else. So it's hard to argue that.
He didn't... All those games he won, he didn't always play like an insane quarterback, or you didn't look at him and think, right, that's greatness right there.
Right.
But he just won, keep on winning.
That's right. So, I mean... It's tough, man. It's a tough conversation to have.
That's like, if how you define, like, greatest quarterback is, like, explain to me why he's so great without talking about Super Bowl, or, like, without saying how many Super Bowls someone won.
That might be a better way to ask it.
Then there's no way you can argue.
Why is this guy so good? Like, I can talk to you for an hour.
Super Bowls are pretty important.
Yeah, so I can talk to you for an hour about Peyton Manning, right? About the stuff that I've seen on film. Tom Brady stuff that I've seen on film is good. It's good. It's not like, nothing that he's ever done has ever blown you away. Yeah. Unless it's like context time, right? This is the Super Bowl. This is coming back from 28 to 3.
It's
like,
just in the big moments.
That stuff's great. Like, that's incredible. That's why he's in the top 5. That's why he's number 2, right? But some of the stuff that I saw from those other 4 is just like, it blows your mind, like how some of these guys can make some of these plays. So from like a sheer like physical standpoint, Brady's probably not even in the top 20, you know? But because of the winning, now he's 2. So how can you get mad? You know, how can you get mad?
That's the biggest
how do you get mad at
time.
Yeah, it's like physically, like, look at his combine film.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, I put that guy at number 2. That's pretty good.
Okay. And then when Derek wins the Super Bowl in New Orleans, he'll be number 6.
He'll be number like somewhere in the top 5. To be determined.
And he's not 5, 4, 3, or 2.
That's right.
But he's somewhere else.
Somewhere else in the top 5.
We'll have another podcast about that too. That'll be fun too.
It's 3:24, so you probably...
Oh, yeah, good. All right, man. We'll go coach some high school kids.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, thanks for coming.
Come on, man.
Next time we got to get, or sometime soon, we got to get you and Darren on here again.
About that? Might be too soon.
This is stats from somebody, a quarterback. Okay. Can you tell me what you think about their college stats?
Okay.
4,839 yards passing.
You already know.
46 touchdowns.
I know those numbers.
I thought it was a 50-50 shot that he was going to know the number.
Why wouldn't you take that guy first? It was so funny. I'm sitting there talking to Tyler. They're going through the combine, and I'm watching these guys throw. I'm like, trash. He's all trash, Dad. I'm like, trash. I'm like, look, man, maybe I've set the bar a little high. It's so funny that you said that.
I thought most likely he's going to recognize it. My worst fear was that he not only wasn't going to recognize it, but he was going to be really unimpressed. He was going to say 9 interceptions.
I don't even remember throwing 9 interceptions. It was so crazy.
At Fresno State, by the way. You know what I'm saying?
At Fresno State, which is going to be fun.
Mr. Houston Texan.
That's right.
The first pick ever.
Yeah, it was fun. 48-39. It's so funny how I know that number now.
Yeah,
because I was mad that it wasn't 5,000. But
before Tyler went to Fresno State,
you're really close.
I was close.
We went to Fresno State. We had a party, and he put on his highlights on the TV.
Yeah, we watched my game from playing Oregon State in 2001.
A great game. What can you say?
It was great. We played the fight song, and then I was like, "Fight song's over. Now let's watch some actual football."
I mean, if I didn't know that was you and I heard those stats, I would take that guy number 1 probably.
Yeah, you take number 1 no matter what. Like, I don't care who he's throwing it against. On air, that's good numbers.
All right, dude. Well, thanks to you for being on, Dan.
You got it. Of course, guys.
All right. Good, everybody.